There was a crash. A tray hit the floor. Laughter erupted. Everyone turned, but no one rushed to help. It wasn't the tray that shocked them. It was the girl who had dropped it. Big, quiet, wrapped in a faded gray hoodie 2 sizes too big. She froze for half a second. Then she bent down, picked up her things, and kept moving. No words, no tears. But in that moment, something shifted. No one at Lincoln Grove High knew it yet, but that girl, the one they whispered about, had hands that could shatter ribs. She didn't throw punches in the hallway. She saved them for the ring. Her name was Melanie Brooks, and by the end of the month, they'd all know it. Melanie was 17. She'd already been the new girl 4 times before this. Every school promised it would be different. Every time, it wasn't. She stepped off the school bus that morning with a stiff backpack, the weight of books slamming against her spine, and the heavier weight of judgment pressing into her shoulders. Her skin glowed like polished walnut wood in the morning sun. Her hair was tied in 2 simple braids, her jeans loose, her hoodie long enough to cover her thighs. She didn't dress to be noticed. She dressed to disappear. But disappearing was hard when you were tall, broad-shouldered, and black in a mostly white prep school. Inside Lincoln Grove's hallways, everything felt tight, like the walls had secrets. Students moved in flocks, chatting, comparing weekend plans, adjusting branded scarves and flexing expensive sneakers. Melanie walked alone. The principal, Mr. Walters, walked beside her with a clipboard and forced cheer. "We're very proud of our academic record here," he said, without making eye contact. "Very inclusive environment. You'll fit right in, I'm sure." She didn't respond. She'd heard it before. They passed clusters of students who turned to stare. Some smirked, some nudged each other. Melanie kept her eyes forward. "This is room 203. Mr. Harris teaches history here," the principal announced as they reached a door. "You're just in time for first period." He opened the door and nodded for her to enter. The room went quiet. 25 heads turned to see the new girl. Melanie walked in slowly, her eyes scanning the room. A few polite smiles, one sneer. A couple of kids looked away like they didn't want to catch whatever she had. "This is Melanie Brooks," Mr. Harris said warmly. He had soft eyes and a tie covered in tiny elephants. "Let's all say hello." A murmur of half-hearted hi and hey followed. Melanie sat in the back corner. A trio of girls on the left side giggled and whispered behind their palms. "She looks like she could break the chair," one said just loud enough. Another mimicked her walk, slow, heavy, deliberate. Melanie heard every word. She didn't flinch, didn't glare. She just sat down, opened her notebook, and waited for class to begin. But inside, her heart beat louder than the Snickers. Lincoln Grove High was run by Kendra Scott, tall, pale, with hair like platinum threads and confidence wrapped in glitter. She didn't need to scream to control the school. One eyebrow raise could end a conversation. Kendra's crew was always 2 steps behind her, Amber and Lily, who laughed when she laughed and looked confused when she didn't. When they saw Melanie in the cafeteria for the first time, Kendra's eyes lit up, not with kindness, but with curiosity. "New girl," she said, tapping a polished fingernail on her tray. "Look at those clothes. Who's hiding under there, the Hulk?" Amber giggled. $10 says she trips before she finds a seat. Melanie walked carefully, balancing. A plastic tray filled with rice, beans, and juice. She scanned the tables, all full, all taken, except for one in the far corner. She sat there, alone. She had barely taken her first bite when her phone buzzed. "Dad, tournament this weekend. Coach says you're ready. Let's show them what Hurricane can do." Melanie smiled. No one here knew that name. Hurricane, the title she earned. After sweeping the regional youth boxing circuit in Cleveland, undefeated, feared, they only saw her size, her silence. They had no idea that she could throw a left hook so clean it could spin a grown man. And right now, she was starving. Not just for food, but for a fight she couldn't have in these halls. The calm didn't last. Kendra, Amber, and Lily dropped into the seats across from her without asking. "So, Cleveland girl," Kendra said, her voice sweet and dangerous, "do they not serve vegetables where you're from?" Lily burst out laughing. Amber choked on her soda. Melanie slowly looked up, her dark brown eyes locked with Kendra's pale blue ones. "They do," she said evenly. "They also teach not to talk with food in your mouth." Kendra blinked, just for a second, then smiled wider. "Oh, she bites," she said. "But seriously, first impressions count, and right now, yours is, a lot." She waved a hand over Melanie's figure like she was presenting a circus animal. Melanie gripped the edge of the table. 6 years of training had taught her control. No matter how much her fists itched, she kept them still. "Thanks for the feedback," she said flatly. "Enjoy your lunch." Kendra leaned in. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. If you want to belong here, you might want to work on all this." Another sweep of the hand. More giggles. Melanie stared at her spoon. She could flip the table. She could end the whole thing in one clean blow. Instead, she counted to 10. Again. The bell rang. School was done. Melanie didn't go home. She went to Eastside Boxing Club, a warehouse gym that smelled like sweat, effort, and cheap sanitizer. She pushed the heavy door open and stepped into her other world. "Look." "Who's here?" Coach Daniels shouted from across the gym. "Storm warning!" He was stocky, bearded, and barked louder than most car engines. But he had trained Melanie's father once, and he trained her now. Melanie dropped her school bag and headed to the locker room. With each step, the day's stress slid off her shoulders. Here, no one laughed at her size. Here, her power was a gift. She went into locker room. When she stepped out of the locker room, she wasn't the same girl who had walked in 15 minutes earlier. Gone were the shapeless hoodie and sagging, jeans that cloaked her frame like armor. Now she wore sleek black shorts and a tight sports top that hugged her wide shoulders and solid arms. Her body, big and bold, no longer tried to hide. In this space, with sweat-soaked mats and the scent of worn leather, her size wasn't a punchline. It was power. She stood in front of the mirror. For a moment, she didn't move. Her eyes traced her own reflection. Not the bruises on her pride, but the strength she had built with every push-up, every mile run before sunrise, every punch she threw when the world called her too much. She pulled the tape from her gym bag and began to wrap her hands, tight and careful. The white cloth curled around her fingers like ritual, a quiet ceremony before the storm. It was something she had done hundreds of times, but today it felt more necessary than ever. The school day had chipped away at her patience. The stares, the whispers, the jokes loud enough for her to hear, but not loud enough for a teacher to notice. She had kept her fists in her pockets all day, clenched so tightly they ached. But now she could let it out. Melanie stepped up to the heavy bag, hanging in the far corner like a quiet challenge. She took her stance, inhale, exhale, then boom. Her glove slammed into the bag with a thud that echoed across the room. Boom, boom, boom. Each punch shook the chain overhead. The bag swung backward only to be hit again before it could settle. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her hands were doing all the talking. From across the gym, a voice called out, "Dang, Mel, you fighting ghosts or just mad again?" It was James, her training partner. He jogged over, grinning, and held the bag steady as she pounded it with jabs and hooks. Melanie didn't stop. James chuckled. "New school's still a mess, huh?" She threw a vicious right hook that made the bag rattle on its chain. "Same old story," she muttered. "New hallway, new faces, same crap." James raised his brows. "Let me guess. They're already calling you names? Melanie nodded, sweat dripping down her temple. Fat girl, freight train, you name it. He shook his head. They don't know what these hands can do. Exactly, she said, landing a brutal uppercut. That's why I'm here and not suspended for slapping someone into next week. From across the gym, Coach Daniels paused mid-sentence with another student and looked over. His eyes narrowed in approval as he watched Melanie move, precise, focused, and relentless. She worked the bag until her arms burned. The gym rang with the rhythm of her punches. There was poetry in her violence, like a storm dancing through a canyon. For 2 hours, she trained with the hunger of someone trying to forget, or maybe trying to remember who she really was. After the final round, Melanie dropped onto a bench, panting. Her limbs were sore but alive. She grabbed her phone to check. The time and the brightness of the screen lit up her face, but what she saw made her heart freeze. A photo. Someone had snapped a picture of her at lunch, food halfway to her mouth, her cheeks puffed out mid-chew. The caption read, "New girls' lunch period. All periods. Freight train incoming." The comments below it were crueler. Dozens of them. Some anonymous, some not. And there, right in the middle, were names she knew. Kendra, Amber, and Lily, typing out their meanness like it was a sport. Melanie's stomach knotted. She slammed the phone. Down on the bench like it had burned her hand, Coach Daniels sat beside her quietly. Bad day? She didn't speak. He glanced at the phone, then back at her. Let me guess. Kids being cowards again? Melanie nodded, trying not to cry. Her throat was tight, her eyes hot. Why is it always me? She asked. Why do they come for me every time? Coach leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Because you scare 'em, he said plainly. You walk in with shoulders they wish they had and a presence they'll never understand, and that terrifies them. Bullies are like weak fighters, all mouth, no muscle. Melanie looked at her hands, still wrapped in the tape. The cloth was stained with sweat, her knuckles red beneath it. I'm so tired, she whispered, of being the one who walks away, of always having to hold it in. Coach Daniels nodded. You know what makes a real champion? It ain't just fists. It's the control not to use them when it's easy, to hit back. She leaned back, letting the air return to her lungs. I've been the bigger person my whole life, she said bitterly. And I don't just mean size. Coach smiled gently. The bigger person always wins in my gym. Don't forget that. But things didn't get better. Not yet. A week passed. At Lincoln Grove High, the mockery grew louder. They had stopped hiding it. Now, students snickered when she walked past. They left notes on her locker. One day she found a cartoon sketch taped to her desk, her face drawn over a steam train engine. Then came the fake social media account. Dozens of posts mocking her weight, her clothes, her skin. She told no one, not even her dad. But every hour evening, she poured it out at the gym, jab after jab like she was punching the insults out of her chest. Friday afternoon, gym class. Melanie waited in a bathroom stall to change. She always did. It was easier than dealing with the mirrors or the comments. But then she heard them enter. Their voices bounced off the tile walls like echoes in a cave. Did you see her pants today? Kendra snorted. Looked like they were crying for help. Lily laughed. I swear she brings her own gravity. Bet she's flattening that dodgeball, Amber added. Don't know why she even tries. Exercise clearly isn't working. Melanie clenched her teeth. She waited for them to leave. She thought they had. But as she stepped out of the stall, Kendra stood waiting. Well, look who crawled out, she said with fake sweetness. Melanie tried to walk past. Kendra blocked her. We were picking dodgeball teams, she said, smirking. And guess what? No one wants to be stuck with you. Melanie didn't respond. Trevor said you remind him of those inflatable punching bags, Kendra added, grinning. You know, the ones that pop back up no matter how many times. You hit them? Something snapped in Melanie's chest. She turned, and her voice came out lower, sharper, colder. You want to test that out? Kendra blinked. Her smile faltered. Are you threatening me? She asked, stepping back. You think that's smart? Melanie didn't flinch. Not threatening. Just curious, she said. I want to see if you're as tough as you pretend to be. She shifted her weight without thinking, her feet aligning, her knees soft. It was a fighter's stance. Second, nature. Kendra's eyes narrowed. Is she serious right now? She asked her friends. Amber giggled nervously. What's she gonna do, sit on you? Melanie stepped closer, calm as ice. Meet me at Iron Ring Gym after school, she said. Since you and your boyfriend love punching bags so much, I'll give you a few pointers. Kendra Scott wrinkled her nose like something smelled bad. Why would I go to some sweaty gym after school? She scoffed, flipping her shiny blonde hair. Melanie Brooks didn't blink. She raised one eyebrow, calm and sharp like a blade. Scared? That one word landed heavier than any punch. Kendra's smirk twitched. Of you? She laughed. Please. Doesn't surprise me, Melanie said, turning slightly, her stance solid. Bullies usually talk the loudest when they're the most afraid. A red flush crept up Kendra's neck. I'm not scared of you, Brooks. Melanie leaned in, her voice quiet but firm. Then prove it. 4 o'clock. Iron Ring Gym. Maple Street. Then she walked away. Just like that. No yelling, no pushing. But the silence that followed was louder than anything. For the first time, Kendra Scott, Queen Bee of Lincoln Grove High, stood completely speechless. By the time the lunch bell rang, the story had spread like fire in dry grass. The new girl challenged Kendra to a fight. At a boxing gym. Today. No one believed it at first. Melanie? The big girl with the hoodie? She's boxing now? No way Kendra's going. She'll laugh in her face and post a TikTok about it. But under the buzz and gossip, curiosity grew like weeds. Everyone wanted to know. What if it was true? Kendra played it cool. As she sat with her friends at their usual lunch table, she rolled her eyes. Please, like I'm gonna waste my afternoon watching a charity case huff around a gym. Amber giggled. Maybe she just wants to show you how she lifts cheeseburgers. The table exploded with laughter. But Trevor, Kendra's boyfriend and captain of the football team, looked thoughtful. Iron Ring Gym? He asked slowly, glancing up from his fries. That's not just a gym. It's the boxing place, right? Kendra shrugged. Who cares? Trevor pulled out his phone, tapped it a few times, then frowned. He scrolled faster. What? Kendra asked, suddenly annoyed. Trevor's eyebrows lifted. Mads. You might want to see this. He turned his phone to show her. On the screen was a picture of Melanie Brooks, mid-fight, gloves, raised, sweat dripping down her face. The caption read, Melanie Hurricane Brooks wins another title, undefeated junior champion. Kendra leaned forward. That's not her, Trevor kept scrolling. Oh, it's her, look. More photos, more wins, more medals, video clips of matches, and in every one, Melanie moved with speed, precision, and power. The quiet girl from school looked like a warrior in the ring. She's like, really good, Trevor muttered. They call her Hurricane 'cause she hits fast and hard. Dang. Kendra snatched the phone and stared at the screen. There was Melanie, fierce, focused, unstoppable. Nothing like the girl she mocked every day. Her stomach twisted. All through the afternoon, Kendra's mood changed. Her jokes fell flat. Her confidence thinned. She walked slower in the halls, eyes distant. She had spent the last few months tearing Melanie down, but now she was realizing who she had been messing with. Not just a girl with thick thighs and a hoodie, but a trained, disciplined, undefeated boxer. Someone who didn't need to fight to prove herself, but could. And that was worse. By the last period, Kendra knew she was trapped. If she didn't show up, everyone would call her a coward. If she did show up, she risked being humiliated. Either way, she lost something. Amber leaned over her desk. "So, are you going?" Kendra stared ahead. "I'm going," she said quietly. "But I'm not fighting her. I'll go, say something clever, and walk away. That's it." At 3:59 p.m., a crowd had gathered outside Iron Ring. Gym. Most had never been near this place. The outside was plain, brick walls stained by time. No neon lights, no glass doors, just a sign with fading paint and a bell that rang when you pulled the handle. Inside, the air was hot and thick, with the scent of leather, chalk, and determination. Punching bags swung in rhythm. The ring in the center stood tall under dim lights. No music. Just the sounds of gloves hitting pads, sneakers squeaking on canvas, and the deep breaths of fighters pushing themselves harder than yesterday. And there, under the center light, was Melanie. She wasn't hiding anymore. No hoodie, no baggy pants. She wore red boxing shorts and a sports bra. Her dark skin glistened with sweat, her arms flexing as she hit the speed bag. Pop, 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 without missing a beat. Her braids were tied back tight, her eyes locked forward. She was a storm in motion. When the students from school filed in, they expected something else. Maybe a scared girl pretending to be tough, maybe an awkward scene. What they saw was something else entirely. They stopped in their tracks. Whispers filled the gym. "That's her? She's ripped. She doesn't even look scared." Even Amber whispered, "She looks like she could bench press me." Kendra stood at the back of the group, frozen. This wasn't the girl she mocked. This wasn't the girl who stayed silent when they joked. This was someone who trained to break bones and control her fire. Then Melanie saw her. She paused her rhythm. The speed bag slowed. She stepped back, ducked under the ropes, and walked to the edge of the ring. Calm, controlled. "You came," she said, voice steady. Kendra tried to keep her face neutral. "I'm not here to fight." Melanie tilted her head. "Didn't think you would." Kendra blinked. "Then why?" "I didn't invite you to fight me," Melanie said. "I wanted you to see me, the real me, not the version you invented in your head to feel better about yourself." Kendra opened her mouth, but no words came out. Behind her, the students fell quiet. Even Trevor stood still. Coach Daniels stepped into the center of the gym, the crowd parting for him like water around a rock. His face was calm, but his voice had the weight of stone. "Everyone sees her now," he said, nodding toward Melanie. "But you don't know what it took for her to get here." His eyes moved slowly around the room. No one spoke. "She's not just strong because she hits hard. Melanie Brooks is one of the most focused, disciplined fighters I've ever trained. And I've trained champions. She's won every match she's ever entered, 17 in total, 12 by knockout." He looked directly at Kendra. Not angry, just honest. "And not once," he said, "not even once, has she ever used that strength outside this gym. Not in the hallways, not in the cafeteria, not even when she had every reason to." The gym was dead quiet. Every breath felt too loud. Melanie stood beside the ring, not puffing her chest, not smiling, just still. Unapologetic, strong. Kendra couldn't look away. Coach's voice dropped lower, softer. "Most grown adults can't control their tempers the way she does. You've been throwing words like stones, hoping she'd break, and all she did was train harder." Melanie finally stepped forward, her eyes still locked on Kendra. You made it your mission. To turn people against me, she said, her voice even. To make me feel small. To laugh. To make sure no one forgot that I'm different. She took one more step, calm as ever. But I didn't come here to fight you. I came so you could see me. Kendra swallowed hard. Her carefully built wall of confidence was cracking, brick by brick. Melanie's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. I'm still big, I'm still black, and I'm still standing without having to throw a single punch. The truth hung in the air like thunder that hadn't struck yet. Kendra didn't answer. She couldn't. Then quietly, Trevor stepped forward. He looked at Melanie with wide eyes, not fear, not shock, but something close to awe. That thing you were doing on the speed bag, he said. That combo, that was insane. How long have you been boxing? Melanie's gaze didn't shift from Kendra. Since I was 6. My dad was a boxer. He taught me my body was powerful, not something to be ashamed of. Trevor nodded slowly. That's seriously impressive. Other students started moving, closer, asking questions. Do you compete nationally? Do you spar every day? How do you stay calm like that? Melanie answered politely but briefly. Her attention stayed on the one person who hadn't said a word. Kendra. As more students gathered around Melanie to watch her demonstrate basic movements, how to jab, how to pivot, how to breathe, Kendra quietly turned and walked out. Amber and Lily followed, calling her name. Kendra, wait up. Are you okay? She didn't respond until they were out of the gym and onto the sidewalk. There, she stopped walking, her hands clenched at her sides. I look like a complete idiot, she whispered. Amber touched her shoulder. Kendra, she could have knocked me out in front of the whole school, Kendra snapped, her voice shaking. But she didn't, and now everyone knows. Everyone. Zoe caught up. Knows what? Kendra looked at them. That I've spent weeks tearing someone down who's 10 times stronger than me. Inside and out. And she never once hit back. She covered her face with her hands. She didn't have to. I already lost. Inside the gym, Melanie was showing students how to rotate their hips when throwing a punch. She caught a glimpse of Kendra leaving and handed the gloves to someone else. I'll be back, she said quietly. Outside, Kendra had just reached her car when she heard footsteps behind her. Hey, Melanie called. Kendra froze. She turned slowly, eyes red, mascara barely, holding on. What? She said, her voice brittle. Come to rub it in? Melanie shook her head. That's your style, not mine. Kendra flinched because it was true. Then what do you want? She asked, arms crossed. I want to know why, Melanie said. Why me? I never did anything to you. Kendra looked down. You didn't have to, she muttered. You just existed. You were new. You were different. Big. Quiet. And you didn't seem to care what anyone thought. She kicked at a pebble. That made you a target. Because I didn't fit your mold? Melanie asked. Kendra shrugged. Because you were easy. Melanie's jaw tensed. Easy, she repeated. Kendra didn't reply. That was answer enough. Melanie stepped closer, her voice softer now. You know what the hardest part of boxing is? Kendra shook her head. It's not the pain, Melanie said. It's not even the exhaustion. It's control. Holding yourself back when everything in you is screaming to strike, resisting when you know you can dominate. She looked Kendra in the eye. I could have humiliated you the first day you mouthed off. I didn't. Kendra's lips parted, but no words came. That's strength, Melanie said. Real strength, not the fake kind that needs likes and followers. For the first time, Kendra looked at her. Really looked. Why are you even talking to me? She whispered. Why don't you hate me? Melanie smiled faintly. Hate eats energy. I'd rather save mine for the ring, for something that matters. Like winning. Kendra wiped her eyes. You already won. Melanie shrugged. Getting there. She hesitated, then added, I have a tournament tomorrow. If you want to see what real strength looks like, you're welcome to come. It wasn't an offer of friendship, but it wasn't nothing. Kendra nodded. Maybe I will. The next morning, the regional youth tournament buzzed with activity. The arena was a whirlwind of noise, gloves being tightened, mats being taped, whistles blowing, coaches shouting encouragement, fighters pacing back and forth like caged tigers. In the prep area, Melanie sat on a wooden bench, wrapping her hands with quiet focus. The familiar rhythm calmed her. Coach Daniel stood beside her, checking the laces on her gloves. You've got a crowd today, he said, tilting his head toward the stands. Melanie glanced up. Dozens of students from Lincoln Grove had come, many still in their school jackets, some holding signs, and right in the middle of the fourth row, looking slightly out of place but very much present, sat Kendra. Next to her, Trevor clapped loudly as Melanie was introduced over the speakers. They're not fans, Melanie said. Curious, Coach replied. Curiosity's how it starts. Melanie nodded. She stood and walked toward the tunnel. The bell was coming, and this time everyone would see her. Not the shadow, not the hoodie, not the whisper, but the storm they had always underestimated. The arena lights burned bright, but Melanie Brooks didn't flinch. This was her world, her space, her rhythm. Inside the ropes, her size wasn't something to hide. Here, her wide shoulders, strong legs, and solid build meant control, meant strength, meant power. In the ring, every inch of her body had a purpose. She rolled her shoulders once, breathed in deep. Her name echoed through the speakers, followed by cheers from a surprising number of classmates. But Melanie barely noticed. Her eyes were locked ahead, on her first opponent, a quick-footed girl from a Detroit gym. The bell rang. Melanie moved. Her gloves flew with precision. Not wild punches, but clean, measured shots. Left, right, duck, hook. She didn't chase. She stalked. And within 2 rounds, the fight was over. Her opponent stumbled. The ref stepped in. Win number 1, no emotion, just focus. Her second match was tougher. A long-armed, lean fighter from Pittsburgh danced around her, staying just out of reach, flicking fast jabs like buzzing flies. For a moment, Melanie struggled. She breathed hard, thinking, watching. Then she spotted it, the tiny delay when the girl stepped back after a jab. In round 3, she took her chance. 1-2 jab to the ribs, uppercut, step-in cross. The girl's head snapped sideways. The crowd gasped. The bell rang. Win number 2. From the stands, students from Lincoln Grove whispered and pointed. That's really her? She moves like a pro. Trevor leaned over to Kendra. You see? Her footwork. It's smooth like she's gliding. Kendra didn't reply. She hadn't taken her eyes off the ring. Something was shifting in her chest, something sharp and uncomfortable. Guilt, maybe, or awe, or both. Then came the final match, Melanie versus the reigning champion, a heavy hitter from Cleveland who hadn't lost in over a year. Everyone knew her name. Her punches broke guards. Her stare alone made girls freeze, but not Melanie. The bell rang, and the fight began. It wasn't fast. It wasn't flashy. It was war. 2 fighters, 2 storms, testing each other, pushing, punching, breaking past limits. Sweat flew with every hook. Their feet shuffled like dancers on hot coals. In round 1, the champion dominated. In round 2, Melanie adapted. By the third, they were both breathless. Each breath felt like fire in the lungs. Their gloves sagged just a bit heavier, but their eyes burned. 30 seconds left. Melanie ducked a wide swing and snapped up. Jab, cross, dig to the ribs. Then came the right hook she'd been saving. It landed. The champion stumbled back. The crowd jumped to its feet. The ref started counting. 1, 2, 3. The girl rose at 8, shaking her head clear. She wouldn't quit. But it didn't matter. The bell rang. It was over. Melanie's hand was raised, her chest heaved, her heart raced. But she smiled. Not a big smile, just a quiet one. For the first time, she turned to the stands, looked right at them. The classmates who once whispered now stood up, cheering like they'd known her all along. Later, in the prep room, Melanie unwrapped her hands. Her wrists ached, her shoulders throbbed, but she felt light. She had done it. That's when she heard footsteps. Kendra, alone. Her hair tied back, face washed clean, no designer sunglasses, no followers, just her. That was, she began, words failing. I've never seen anything like that. Melanie didn't say anything at first. You were amazing, Kendra said, voice low. Really? Melanie blinked. Thanks. I owe you something, Kendra added, her voice growing steadier. An apology. A real one. She took a breath. What I did. What I said. It was cruel. It was wrong. And I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself for it. Melanie folded her wraps, neat and slow. Why now? She asked without looking up. Because I won? Kendra shook her head. No, because I saw who you really are, and I realized how wrong I was. Her hands twisted nervously. You could have humiliated me yesterday. Everyone would have cheered, but you didn't. You showed more strength by doing nothing than I've ever shown in my life. Melanie finally looked at her. That's not who I am, she said softly. I know, Kendra replied. Now I do. A long pause passed between them. I'd like to know more about who you are, Kendra said, almost shy. If you'll let me. Melanie tilted her head, thinking. It won't be easy, she warned. Trust doesn't come back fast. I get that, Kendra said. Melanie stood and slung her gym bag over her shoulder. Lunch on Monday? Kendra offered. Melanie shrugged. Sure, but fair warning, I eat a lot. Training burns. Serious fuel. For the first time, Kendra laughed. Really laughed, not to mock, but because she was happy to hear that answer. I'll remember that. They walked out of the arena together. The girl everyone had feared, and the girl everyone had followed. Now side by side. People watched. People whispered. But this time, Melanie didn't shrink. She walked tall, her championship belt over one shoulder shining under the lights. And for once, she didn't feel invisible. 3 months later. The gym at Lincoln Grove buzzed with life. Mats on the floor, gloves on benches, ropes marking off sparring space. The first official meeting of the Lincoln Grove Boxing Club was about to begin. At the front stood Melanie, now the founder and president, her voice steady as she addressed the group. Boxing isn't just about fighting, she said. It's about knowing yourself, controlling your strength, understanding your limits, and then breaking them. She looked around. There were all kinds of students, tall, short, quiet, loud, athletes, non-athletes, boys, girls, a few kids in wheelchairs, all curious, all eager, and among them, wearing basic workout gear, ponytail pulled back, hands slightly trembling. From her first warm-up set stood Kendra. She wasn't perfect. She still whined when her muscles got sore, still asked too many questions, but she showed up, every time, and Melanie noticed. Their friendship wasn't smooth, it wasn't simple, but it was real, built not on apologies alone, but on earned respect. Kendra had even stood up in front of the whole school assembly and publicly apologized for bullying Melanie. Some people said she only did it to save face after the gym videos went viral. But those who had seen her cry outside the gym, they knew. Coach Daniels volunteered to supervise the club. As he walked around watching the students hit pads and shadow box, he kept an eye on Melanie, pride written all over his face. At one point, Melanie demonstrated a simple combination, jab, cross, hook, then turned to the class. "Remember," she said, "it doesn't matter what other people see when they look at you. What matters is what you know about yourself." She looked across the ring. Kendra smiled. Melanie smiled back, not because they had forgotten the past, but because they had chosen something better. Back in the hallways of school, things had changed. Not completely, not overnight. Real change never happens that fast. But the whispers that followed Melanie now weren't mocking. They were curious. Some were even admiring. People nodded when she passed. Some asked questions about training. A few even asked how to join the club. She was still big, still black, still exactly who she'd always been. But now the world saw what she'd always known. That none of those things made her weak. They made her a fighter. And Melanie Brooks was no longer hiding. True strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how much you can hold back. Melanie taught us that power with control, confidence without cruelty, and standing tall in your own skin is what makes a real champion. And sometimes, the person the world laughs at turns out to be the one it learns from. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful tales just like this one. New stories drop every week, stories that uplift, inspire, and remind us who we really are. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind.